In this video, I'm going to explain how to create a template and a design for a piece of artwork that you would make out of clay, which is ceramics. And for this style, we're going to be doing hand building. So one form of hand building is called slab. And here is a visual sample of a castle that a student made. So what you're going to be learning how to do right now is how to make the walls for the castle and for any other piece of slab work that you'd want to make. You're responsible for every angle to make sure that they fit and they match and they work together well. So this would be one option here for the bottom of the piece of work. Then you have one wall, two walls, three walls. You work on the thickness as you go. You don't necessarily have to measure the thickness of the wall. You don't ever want to go larger than 1/2 inch because the water will not be able to evaporate out of your walls and it can potentially explode in the kiln during the Bisque Fire stage. Okay, so that's one example of a piece of slab. Here's another example, a gingerbread house. And as you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, even 7 here, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then 15 angles that you would want to measure out so that everything fits properly. You can also cut your clay as you go. Here's just an example of a tile. So this is what a piece of slab would look like. It's pretty skinny and that's okay. It just doesn't, you want to really kind of reinforce your walls if you're going to make it this thin. I wouldn't recommend that, but this is a good sample piece for kind of a glaze color. So ultimately you are going to have your pieces measured and you want them to be identical if you are making something that is, you know, somewhat realistic. And then here I have another piece that is really large, and that's just something I made in college, and it's very technical. There's a lot going on. So what you want to do is just start small and really plan out what you're going to be doing. So in other words, the best way to do that is to start with a drawing. What do you want to make? So if you're going to just draw something that's in linear perspective and 1-point linear perspective, I always recommend using those methods. You start really simple with, you know, a rectangle or a square here, and your vanishing point, your horizon line. You go back, right, to the vanishing point. You repeat your horizontal line here. You repeat your vertical line here. Okay, and then just for visual reasons, you get rid of the excess receding line space. So here you kind of know I have wall 1, 2, and 3 so far. But what about wall number 4 in the back and wall number 5 on this side? And then number 6 would be the bottom, your platform. So you can then go into the decorative elements. I want to have an arched doorway here, okay? I want to have a window over here or a door, etc. What if you want to have a roof? Okay, what you do is you take a dot right here, you go up however high you'd want your roof to be, you do a triangle, okay, and you take that tip of the roof back to the vanishing point and you repeat right here, okay. So then you can see now you have one solid piece in front of you. So that would be number 7. So that would be like your triangle right here, right? And then you have this piece right here on the side. This would be number 8. So this shape is like this. And then also for number 9 on the other side, on the opposite side that we're not seeing, you have the same. So you would have size times 2. This would also be times 2 because you have number 10 in the very back, in the rear. So this is 10 pieces and it's just a very simple design. So think about that. Think about what is it that you want to make. If you want to just start off with something that's really cool that you can look into and you don't need a roof, you can do that and it's actually open. You can add a door to it if you wish to do that. But one thing I recommend is here's my sketch, right? Then you want to take a thick piece of paper, and the paper that I use is typically no thicker than these manila envelopes that are actually really super handy, because what you can do is go ahead and label which part of the slab you're making. So for this piece, I have 2 of the roof angle. I have 2 in the front. I have 1 in the front here. I have a side angle here. And so what I want to do is make sure I'm sketching out each piece, okay? And you would want to measure here at this point. But for demo purposes, I just want to sketch it for you so that you can kind of see how you would go about applying the actual sizing. So this is a little bit more than 2 inches, okay? Let's just maybe cut it off at 2 inches. And what you want to do is go back in and make sure that you understand that when you are waiting for the water to evaporate out of the clay, that takes a couple of days for it to become leather hard, depending on how cold it is outside or the weather, etc. Your clay body is going to shrink by 30% by the time it's fired in the kiln. So what happens is you make your piece of clay, you make you design your slab work, and then you let it rest for a few days to let the water evaporate naturally. Once it gets to that stage, then I put it in the kiln, which is called a Bisque Fire, okay? Because this is bisque ware right now. And then it shrinks by 30%. So if you're gonna do 2 inches here, keep in mind, what's 30% off of 2 inches? Okay, so it's gonna be smaller than this when you're done. So if you're thinking, oh no, that's too small, never mind, I'm gonna move on, I want something bigger. Okay, start bigger. Start measuring and go from there. So here's my measuring tool that I'm gonna use. I think I'll start, why don't I start at 4 inches wide for my first wall, okay? And then I think I want it to be taller than it is wider. So I'm gonna go to 6 inches, okay? And then I'm gonna use the edge of my ruler and line it up with the edge of my paper. I'm at 5, so I know I'm only gonna go to 1 for 4 inches. And then I'm gonna close it up nicely right here, okay? So then just to kind of reiterate here, I have 4 inches, and 4 inches, okay? And then this wall here is 6 inches. And then you know this is 6 and 4, you don't have to repeat. I highly recommend putting your measurements inside your drawing, because if you put them outside, what you're gonna end up doing is, in order to get your template ready, you're gonna be cutting out your shapes, okay? Once you cut your shape out, the next thing you're gonna do is, once you get your clay, you cut your clay using a butter knife, a plastic butter knife, or any butter knife, and you size it and you put it on this piece of paper here, okay? And then that way you know, okay, I am exactly to the measurement, and that all your walls are identical. So this would be wall number 1 for me, okay? And then let's just make this little archway so I could design it differently later. And this is what I want I want it to look like, so that I have little openings. And what's really cool is if you make openings, you can always add a little illuminated light inside, the little LED lights, and it twinkles. You can make haunted houses or gingerbread houses that way, and it looks really interesting. So keep in mind, this is wall number 1, but what about wall number 10? You'd have to repeat this. So you do need enough paper where, knowing you're gonna cut this out, and if you would like to not cut it out, that's an option too. You just have to be really careful that the paper doesn't get too wet. So I would say this is number 1 and number 10, and I need 2 of these. If you are not going to cut them out, then you're done with this set of walls. If you are gonna cut them out, you can use the same one twice. However, the paper might stick to the bottom of the clay, and you might just need another one. So always make sure you have backup paper as you're working. The next shape that I would do, and maybe I do number 7. It's up to you. And then I know I have a number, I'm sorry, this is 10 back here. I know I would have a number 7 in the back. So I have a 7 and a 10. This is actually a 4. because I drew that in the first place. So I have a 7 and a 10. And so what I would do is I would say, okay, how wide is my number 4 wall, or my number 1? It's 4 inches wide. So I'd go right here and I'd say, okay, at 4 inches, okay, that's how wide, because your number 7 goes above your number 1, so it has to be the same width here and the same in the back for 4 and 10. Okay, so if I'm 4 inches wide, how tall do you want it to be? That's up to you. You can do 4 inches if you want and make it a perfect triangle. You know, you could curve it if you want to. It doesn't have to be this like perfectly geometric shape. Okay, so then what do you do next? This is 4 inches. 4 inches. And the reason why you need your measurements is because when you are cutting your clay, you don't want to have to put the ruler on top of the clay. You can take the template, which is another reason why you'd want to cut it out. Some people don't cut it out. It just depends on how you're feeling about it that day. So this does happen to be 4 inches also, okay, and 4 inches relatively. So here's 4, and then I know this one's going to be 4 as well, okay? And I need 2 of these. So what you would do is you would just keep going until you have all of your walls and all of your roof area. And then that way you have your template ready. Like I said, you can cut them out or you can leave them. You want to just basically have them on one side only in case you do cut them out. You don't want to draw on the other side because then you would be cutting into your space. If you want to create your template after you use this piece, you can do that too. So if you were to take another folder, you would just keep going, and let's say I'm going to do my roof right here. You wouldn't want it to be curved, how it is in the drawing that I did right here. Okay, this isn't what you need right now. You would need an actual triangle. And then what you would do with the clay is you would manipulate it so that it's curved. So this one is number 8 and number 5 on the outside. And the numbers don't matter. I'm just trying to show you for demo reasons. So I need 2 of these. But what did I do? I just sketched it. I didn't double check the sizing. So what I want to do is make sure that this is 4 inches. So this needs to be 4 inches, and this needs to be 4 inches. And if I already did my clay body for the wall, so see how much bigger this is? So you can't assume, okay, that you have finished it exactly by sketching. You always want to make sure that it matches. And the reason why it matters that this is 4 inches is because it goes along the triangle here. It looks like it's smaller in the drawing, but in real life, it's not going to recede back into space. It's going to be the same size on both sides, right here and right here. Okay? So then you would just continue to make sure that you have measured everything. Look at this as like a blueprint, like an architect is building and designing something cool that they're going to construct. You want to make sure that you have everything that matches. So right here, this is the side wall here, and it would be an actual rectangle, okay? And how long is this? How long do you want it to be? Do you want it to be 6 inches or 8 inches? So then you decide right here, okay, that has to match. This is the side of the roof. That has to match this same measurement. So let's just say it's 6 inches. This also needs to be 6 inches. Okay, so make sure you're very careful with having a piece of slab and your template out for each wall that you are ready to build in order to construct your slab work.